Most people think a curse is a spooky ghost or a cinematic lightning bolt. It isn't. In reality, a curse looks like a microscopic bloom of Aspergillus flavus, a fungus that waits in total darkness for 500 years just for the chance to liquefy your lungs. In 1973, a team of archaeologists in Poland joked about the curse of King Casimir as they pried open his rotting wooden coffin. Within days, the laughter stopped. By the end of the year, nearly everyone who touched that wood was dead. It's a terrifying reminder that some things aren't buried to be remembered. They're buried to stay away from the living. The 1970s was an era of scientific arrogance. We had split the atom and walked on the moon. The idea that a medieval king could reach out from the grave felt like a campfire story. Casimir IV Jagiellon was a powerhouse of the 15th century, the Grand Duke of Lithuania and King of Poland. When he died in 1492, he was interred in Wawel Cathedral. For centuries, his tomb remained unmolested, a silent granite block in a city that survived world wars and partitions. But by 1973, the cathedral needed restoration. The researchers were elite, biologists, historians, and seasoned excavators. They had the best tech of the Cold War era. They believed that by opening the tomb, they were simply reclaiming history. They didn't realize they were breaking a biological seal that had created a unique, pressurized ecosystem of decay. In the eyes of the locals, they weren't just opening a box, they were violating a sacred silence that had a very high price of admission.
Enter the hero, Dr. Felix Danczak and his team of 12 researchers. They were the skeptical rationalists. Opposing them was the villain, not a person, but the suffocating, stagnant air inside the vault. As they prepared to lift the lid, the local press actually asked them about the curse. One researcher allegedly joked, "We've got vaccines, the king doesn't." The tension was palpable. The vault was cramped, humid, and smelled of ancient dust and something sweet, the cloying scent of rot. As the crowbars groaned against the stone, a small crack formed, a hiss of air escaped. To the scientists, it was a pressure equalization. To the onlookers, it was the king's final breath. They weren't wearing hazmat suits or high-level respirators. They were wearing lab coats and basic masks. They stepped into the dark, flashlights cutting through a fog of spores that had been mutating in isolation for half a millennium. They found the king, draped in decaying silks, and they began their work, unaware that the air they were breathing was now a toxic soup. The descent into chaos was cinematic and gruesome. Within 72 hours, Dr. Kazimierz complained of a relentless, dry cough. Then came the biological wildfire. It wasn't a slow decline, it was an organ-by-organ shutdown. The researchers began to suffer from what looked like rapid-onset pneumonia, but the antibiotics did nothing. The most bizarre moment occurred when one of the lead researchers collapsed in his office, his lungs so filled with fungal nodules that he was essentially suffocating on dry land. The fungus, Aspergillus flavus, produces aflatoxins, some of the most carcinogenic and toxic substances known to biology. In the damp, dark tomb, the fungus had grown on the king's leather boots and wooden coffin, creating a hyper-concentrated dust. When the team leaned in to examine the king's crown, they were inhaling millions of these invisible assassins. One by one, the team members were admitted to the hospital. The curse was manifesting as a biological assault. Their skin turned a grayish hue, their fevers spiked to lethal levels, and they experienced vivid hallucinations. Some claimed to see the king standing at the foot of their hospital beds. Within months, 10 of the original 12 were dead. The media went into a frenzy. The king had defended his rest with a weapon science couldn't stop. The immediate 30 days following the first death were a period of pure medical panic in Krakow. The cathedral was cordoned off by men in what looked like spacesuits, a jarring sight in a medieval city. The remaining 2 survivors lived in a state of permanent paranoia, waiting for the first cough that would signal their end. Scientific journals were forced to retract their dismissive takes on tomb toxins. This wasn't magic, it was a biobomb. The Polish government halted all archaeological excavations of royal tombs indefinitely. The public was terrified that the plague would escape the hospital wards and sweep through the city, leading to a brief but intense period of localized quarantine and religious vigils at the cathedral gates. This event fundamentally changed archaeology. It birthed the field of archaeothanatology, the study of how the dead decay and the risks they pose. Today, in 2026, we don't open a tomb without positive pressure suits and remote sensors. The Curse of Casimir led directly to modern protocols for handling ancient organic matter. It also cemented the mummy's curse in the modern psyche, moving it from the realm of Victorian fiction to hard biological reality. It taught us that sacred ground is often just a polite way of saying biohazard. We realized that history has a literal shelf life, and if you disturb it past its expiration date, it will bite back. We started with a detail nobody explains, the fungus in the lungs. We end with a truth. The king didn't need magic to protect his grave. He just needed time and a little bit of mold. So, the next time you see a "Keep Out" sign on an ancient ruin, remember Dr. Donchuk. Science might have the vaccines, but the king still has the last laugh. Don't breathe the dust.